Well, welcome to another week's analysis behind the news. Let's talk this week about the election result. Well, I know there's an awful lot of blame going around, pointing fingers here and there and everywhere else, except where it really belongs. They again have been able to get us, to those of us who are liberty lovers, to accuse each other of being to blame. That we are the ones who are to blame for the re-election of Obama and etc. You've seen it all put out in the Facebook, in Twitter, and you name it. It's out there. And the whole idea is to get us to fight amongst ourselves, but also stand still for the idea that we have to give up. After all, it's the more moderate position that will win elections. This strident, principled ideas that you people have is not good. We have to have a big umbrella for the Republican Party to seek out the woman's vote, the Hispanic vote, the colored vote, the whatever colored or whatever dimension that there is out there. We're going to seek out that block and bring it under the umbrella, and then we can elect good Republicans. The problem with that is my experience since 1963 in the Republican Party, off and on, has been that the umbrella always moves left. It never moves right. It never includes the constitutionalists. You can doorbell for us, otherwise keep your mouth shut. You can take the blame if we lose an election, but if we win an election, it will be the moderates who have done it. It will be the moderates who will save this country. The lesser of evil is evil. I made it my mind or my principle in 1964 and thereafter, never, never, never to vote for the lesser of two evils. Because it's evil. It's unprincipled. And that's why we're losing, ladies and gentlemen, is because every time we vote for the lesser of evil, we keep adding to the evil and adding to the evil. Now, we may not go up this big, but we go up at least half. And so it's that steady accumulation of evil that is killing this country. And it's becoming rather obvious. We're not going to go backwards by electing the lesser of evil. We're just going to add a little bit less to the evil instead of a little bit more. So it isn't a reversal or anything else when you vote for the lesser of evils. They're saying that all these votes that wrote in for Ron Paul or the Libertarian Party or whatever, the Constitution Party, whatever it happens to be, cost us this election, whatever that means. Ladies and gentlemen, in the McCain election, 8 million people did not vote because they didn't feel that it was going to make any difference. This time, that went up to nearly 12 million people did not vote because it wouldn't make a difference. Now they're talking about 3 or 4 million didn't vote over last time. But that's in an accumulation over those that didn't vote the last time either. So it comes right around 12 million people said, forget it. I don't see the difference. I'm not voting. The thing is, too, to compound that, we see instances where counties around the country voted 100% for Obama. One county in Ohio voted 107 or 109, I'm not sure, percent of the registered voters for Obama. Now that's impossible, but nobody seems to be concerned. We see that sort of thing going on. What's the problem with losing hundreds of thousands of votes from our armed services, which happened, where the absentee ballots from areas like Afghanistan and others where our soldiers voted in the election 5 months before the election, and those ballots, for a variety of reasons, a litany of excuses, did not reach the authorities in those counties to be counted around the country for whomever they voted for. Considering the overwhelming fundraising that Ron Paul had amongst the armed forces, you can well imagine that they probably overwhelmingly did not vote for Obama. You can go online And you can Google this fact. You won't see it much on the mainstream media. But we also had an article, I think we posted it on November 9th, on this problem of these hundreds of thousands of ballots not reaching the polling places around the country from our armed forces overseas. That's criminal. I don't care what kind of excuses you have for it. It's too coincidental. Excuse after excuse, coincidence after coincidence. Now, a lot of people, they look at the situation today and say, we've never been in a worse situation in this country. The sky is falling. People are going to the banks and pulling their money out of the banks. People are going to the gun shops and buying guns and ammo in record amounts. They're afraid. They don't talk about it to their neighbor, but that's what they're doing. Well, let me tell you, this has happened to us on many occasions in the past. And I'm going to tell you a few things now that are not in your history books, but you can go online and verify most of this for yourself if you just take a little time. At the beginning of this country, after the ratification of the Constitution, we almost lost this government. We almost lost it during the Washington and Adams administration due to the foreign influence of what we call communists today. They didn't call them that at that time. Foreign agents from revolutionary France trying to bring down this country and capture it for themselves to make this worldwide revolution. They'd already captured France, then they wanted the United States, and then from there they were going to country after country. That was the plan. It was so bad that 10,000 people at one point were in the streets of the capital, which at that time was Philadelphia, looking for Washington and Adams to hang them. That's how bad it was in those days, and you don't read a word about it in your history books. Oh, once in a while, the Democratic Society, the Jacobins, that kind of thing, but they don't tell you the significance and the tremendous amount of influence they had that almost brought this government down. Take a look at after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. This country was run by the Department of War under Andrew Stanton. I have identified over 50 Union generals who were communists. Some of them who were actually founders of the First Internationale under Karl Marx, who were in our army. At the end of the war, we had the situation where the army ruled parts of the North as well as the South during Reconstruction. People who stood up against the federal government were thrown in prison, that sort of thing. Yeah, you hear a little bit about it in some books. There are some books that are coming out now talking about it more. But the depth of the real serious socialist communist problem we had is not told to you. The Undersecretary of War was Charles Dana, one of the most notorious communists in this country, who was instrumental in putting together approximately 50 communist communes around the country, a friend of Karl Marx, a man who hired him, along with Horace Greeley, as a correspondent who wrote over 500 articles from Europe for the New York Tribune. That's how bad it was. About 50,000 companies went bankrupt immediately following the war because of the policies, the economic policies of the federal government. We went to paper during the war. We remained on paper and didn't have specie, which the Constitution of the United States specifically requires that only gold and silver will be used by the states, but also that the government will coin money, not print money. And you can go through a litany of times in our history when the situation was really, really precarious. It's the same way it is today. But instead of deciding how can we rectify this, we're pointing fingers at each other and saying he's to blame and he's to blame. No. What's to blame is the fact that we have to go out and make more votes. Not look at voting blocks that are already been made for us by some leftist organization or the newspapers or the schools or what have you. You and I have to go out and make votes. How is that done? By educating our neighbor, by educating the opinion molders as to the principles upon which this country was founded. then organize them to work on the issues. You know, every time in our history, whether it was right after the Constitution was ratified, whether it was during the Reconstruction, the awful election of 1912 that gave us the Federal Reserve and the income tax and the direct election of senators, whether it was the rotten New Deal under FDR, which if the NRA, the National Recovery Act, had stayed in authority instead of being knocked down by the Supreme Court, we would have had a fascist government without any question. And in all of those stages, there was no organization there to counter these things, and yet we came through it. No sense going through all the litany of reasons why we came through it, but it's the same way today. But this time we have organization to fight these people. We have the John Birch Society and our influence in other organizations. If you are not a member of the society, I suggest strongly that you look at that and get in there, get to work, because it is precarious. There's no reason why to hide that fact. I want to just give you some hope, though, that it can be done if enough people get organized and work on the same thing at the same time under responsible leadership. There is hope. It's time to get busy. Don't get discouraged. Don't get your guns and groceries. Get busy. Till next week. We'll see you then.